What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another highly combustible reaction. We're jumping into the next one on our Sabaton and Sabaton History journey. Stormtroopers, the German elite of World War I, Sabaton History, episode 119. Get over show, Sabaton History, all the love of the world. We've been subbed up forever. Let's go. You're going to learn something today because we always like to do the history before we do the actual song. Shout out to Martijn for this one. I appreciate you. Let's go.
Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton.
And this is Sabaton History.
Live from the Sabaton Cruise.
Live from the Sabaton Cruise.
Hell yeah!
From the Sabaton Cruise.
And this is Stormtroopers. And this is really unfortunately, not about Stormtroopers a long time ago in a galaxy far away. It's more recent. It's more Earthbound Stormtroopers, unfortunately. It was March 1918, and the Kaiserschlacht drew near. These German spring offensives were to be the final, all-deciding battles that would win the Central Powers the Great War. So, all night, special assault squads shuffled into position. They were waiting for the signal to unleash a hurricane of extreme violence against their enemies, armed to the teeth. And with iron in their hearts, they would pour through the weak spots of the enemy's defenses like a flood of metal and steel. These were the German Stormtroopers. When Quartermaster General Erich Ludendorff basically took over German High Command in 1916, he knew that he needed to change things if they wanted to win the war. The traditional mass tactics were a thing of the past and had only produced huge casualties for little gain. To break the stalemate of trench warfare, he and his command figured they had to go back to the qualities of individual soldiery. By 1916, the idea of the Sturmtruppen had begun to take root within the German army. The year of the battles, as 1916 would be known, at Verdun, the Somme, and in Galicia, had again demonstrated the futility of throwing waves of men against entrenched defenses. The Stormtroop concept offered something new, a cadre of highly trained, highly motivated, and highly specialized assault units. The original Sturmtrupps were brought to life in the mountainous battlefields of the Vosges, the Carpathians, and the Argonne. Here, the terrain did not allow for continuous lines of trenches, and the defenders had to build a series of separated strong points instead. Fighting in the confined spaces of narrow mountain paths favored aggressive shock troop tactics, and the first Stormtroopers were great at circumventing enemy positions and infiltrating their perimeter before attacking from the flanks and the rear. Outfits like the original Sturmabteilung Rohr were also developed from the playbooks of trench raiders and combat patrols, applying a deadly mix of shock, surprise, and ultra-violence. They would burst onto the...
Indy could seriously be reading me instructions on how to build a table, and I would be on the edge of my seat. He's just got a way of delivering it that you just want to pay attention. You want to listen.
And cause havoc among the defenders. But unlike regular infantry, the Sturmtruppen would not stop there, but keep on pushing through the trenches to create maximum chaos, maximum destruction. The emerging Stormtroopers attracted
it's terrifying.
A certain kind of soldier, usually younger men, often under 25, unmarried, and with a certain flair for recklessness and a disdain for death and danger. But there were also the older, more experienced veterans, professional soldiers, and cold, calculating killers. Physically, fitness was important for the job, as the demands on the body, well, they were high. But most importantly was their character. Each had to possess a certain dash and a daredevil attitude. A single-minded determination was necessary to see advances carried out through total carnage and destruction. For in close-quarter combat, there is no room for humanity. They would fight with daggers, clubs, trench tools, pistols, looking the enemy in the eye while punching, wrestling, killing. And this needed a certain type of man with
Yeah, the best of the worst.
with unrelenting determination and iron in the soul, as Ernst Junger's writings would describe. The single strongest motivation was the Stoss, the push and shock needed to break into enemy lines. Unlike trench raiders, stormtroops, they were not there to capture prisoners or gather intelligence. Their sole objective was to clear a path and remove any obstacles in the way, living or otherwise. The constant danger, the constant pressure, it formed a very tight bond between the men. They trained and lived together day by day, and they had to fully trust in each other's abilities. Each was a specialist in his own right. Now, many came from the German Jägers and the newly introduced mountain units. Those guys were expert marksmen and recon specialists. Others had been pioneers, and their technical expertise in handling explosives and flamethrowers brought tactical versatility to the mix. There were also machine gun specialists, trench mortar and grenade launcher units. So for whatever task lay ahead, the Stoss troop could be mixed and matched for whatever the situation demanded. Each man was, of course, well-trained in close combat and trench warfare, as well as with a wide arsenal of both native and foreign weapons and equipment. They were armed with lighter carbines and machine guns like the MG-08-15, but the weapon of choice for the Stoss troop was the hand grenade. Going into action, they would carry sandbags full of stick and egg grenades with them. The first for concussion, the second for fragmentation. Emphasis was on accuracy and quickness of release. Each trooper would carry at least 5 or 6 grenades into battle, often in bags slung around the neck and the shoulders.
That's insane.
They were great
That's
tools to dislodge the enemy from fortified positions by bombarding loopholes and entrances. And remember, the storm detachments, they were not riflemen. They were not fusiliers. They were designated grenadiers. Many weapons were specially modified for stormtrooper use. The P-98 Luger, well, it was perfect for close combat in general, but its small magazine was quickly depleted. The Stormtrooper Luger, though, was outfitted with a 32-round drum magazine, a longer barrel, and a shoulder stock. It was basically a semi-automatic carbine by that point. Even more effective was the MP-18 submachine pistol. Firing 400 rounds a minute, it was the perfect trench clearer. A new uniform was also designed to suit the especially rugged service of the stormtroopers. This was outfitted with mountain boots and trousers with leather patches on the buttocks and on the knees. Over the years, the Germans would develop their stormtroop doctrines and ideas, but it was experimental by nature, a constant trial by fire, if you will. Equipment and weapons were constantly exchanged and rebalanced in order to figure out what worked and what did not work. But fighting on so many fronts simultaneously allowed the Germans to accumulate a large pool of knowledge and experience from their own forces as well as from their enemies. The French, the British, the Russians, they all deployed some sort of shock troops and death companies that were especially fierce in battle. Each mission, the Germans also studied how the enemy had reacted to their attacks. What was his modus operandi? How would he direct his reserves? And what weapons would he bring to bear? German High Command allowed the stormtroop soldiers and commanders a great deal of freedom of decision in the field. If opportunities needed to be seized and momentum maintained, then there was no room for waiting or for second guessing. Stormtroop tactics demanded decentralized leadership and low-level command structures. Instead of setting a rigid and restricted set of objectives, the men were given just a broad goal and allowed to find their own ways as to how to achieve it. NCOs were not only allowed, but encouraged to lead through direct command and personal judgment. a concept which would later develop into the famed Auftragstaktik, mission tactics, which I've talked about in my World War II series. Here, success depended on the determination.
Has Indy wrote a book? I'm gonna go look that up, because if he's wrote a book and he writes it like he speaks, it's a book that I want to read. Like, I learned so much, because this is the most intrigued that I've ever been with history throughout my entire life. It's when I'm listening to him talk or watching something to do, like right here. It's whenever somebody's got that delivery that makes you feel like you're right there in the action, you can almost taste the dirt. Like, I'm so into it. It's just, I've never ever been excited to learn history, but it gets me excited for it, even though a lot of it was obviously terrible. I don't understand. Like, in a war world, sometimes you just gotta look for the worst of people who are good at doing the bad things, apparently.
Determination and the recklessness of the pack, personal initiative, the dash and drive of the individual. These were to decide victory or death. The Stormtroopers soon had a certain image, a certain mythos. And both German soldiers and their allies and enemies began to take notice. For the allies, the Stormtroopers became kind of a boogeyman. Sentries were paranoid about the idea of groups of Germans with trench clubs stalking the night. The men themselves certainly...
Who wouldn't be fucking terrified? They essentially have like a green light to be a serial killer. Get out there and just destroy everything. Kill everybody. We don't care. Like, don't take any prisoners. I would be worried about that too, but like, hold on. Who's coming here?
They knew that they were elite. They got the best training, the best equipment, more weapons than any other outfit. They did not have to concern themselves with the woes of regular infantrymen. They were not there to hold the line. They were not there to prepare defenses. They were there to break in, to destroy the enemy and open a path. Nothing more, nothing less. After each mission, if they got back alive, they were rotated out of the lines and trained for their next assignments. A German medical officer recounts, the men of the storm battalions were treated like football stars. They lived in comfortable quarters. They traveled to the playing ground in buses. They did their jobs and disappeared again, and left the poor foot soldiers to dig in, to deal with the counterattacks and endure the avenging artillery fire of the enemy. They were so well trained and had developed such a high standard of teamwork. They moved like snakes over the ground, camouflaged and making use of every bit of cover, so they did not offer any targets for artillery fire. When an attack was ordered, the Stormtroopers would gather in well-prepared forward positions, usually trenches and saps that offered the shortest possible way to the enemy lines. They assembled under cover of the night and in total silence to not tip off the enemy that death was lurking just around the corner. Once the signal for attack was given, though, the artillery would open fire, wrecking any pre-sighted points on the map. See, artillery was always an important factor on a Great War battlefield, but it was vital for the success of the Stormtroopers. A sudden, violent barrage of heavy guns would not only destroy much of the defenses, but would also force the enemy to spread out and find cover in isolated groups, which would then become easy prey. Everything had to work like clockwork for maximum efficiency. The Stormtroopers rose out of their trenches, running and jumping through the last meters of no man's land towards the enemy trenches. Like in the simulations, the troopers would break in just after the last shell had been fired. Violence had to be overwhelming from the start, and every second counted. Pioneers would push in with flamethrowers or demolish barbed wire with explosives. Grenadiers would throw flurries of bombs into the dugouts. Everyone bold enough to oppose them was to be cut down mercilessly. Trench mortars were brought in to deal with enemy strong points, and light machine guns took positions to support the advance. Colored smoke flares would be fired into the sky to inform the rear of their success, and then the reserves were rushed in with more grenades and more ammo. But in the end, of course, victory was not guaranteed. After all, Stormtrooper tactics were all about fluidity. If the attack promised success, then it would be further exploited. If not, it would be abandoned. Even the best equipped stormtroopers could run into insurmountable defenses or much stronger opposition than they had anticipated. Plans never survive the first contact with the enemy. That is the rule. But individual setbacks could not allow the whole advance to be bogged down, not even for a moment. Hesitation and unnecessary long firefights would allow the enemy to recover and regain his wits. The stormtroopers would have to always keep the initiative, always keep up the pressure, always push, always pursue. If one group failed, another would not try to overcome the obstacle, but circumvent it. There was always a different path in the maze of the trenches, and stormtroopers were to find and exploit the path that offered the least resistance. Get in, wreak havoc, get through, job done.
Or die, right? No.
I think some of you guys might have seen my friend Joachim around before, yeah?
I play in a local band from Falun.
But he's a singer, actually, and he's pretty good. This time we're going to actually talk about the song.
Yes, please.
Okay. Now, Stormtroopers, don't laugh. Okay, we're not going to talk. We're going to talk about breakfast. No, we're going to talk about the song. Now, Stormtroopers, great topic. Sure, shock troops, always great. Everybody's interested. Why choose the German stormtroops as opposed to the Russian or Austro-Hungarian or even the Italian or French, or when you're choosing?
Oh, it's actually a bit of a joke, internal one. A lot of people have requested we do a song about Star Wars over the years.
But see, this I kind of feel now like I've never really thought about it before. The whole Stormtrooper thing. It kind of takes people's mind off of what happened here when you watch Star Wars. Whenever you think Stormtrooper, the very first thing that came to my mind was Star Wars every single time. Never did I say, oh, let me think about all the way back to World War I and their Stormtroopers. Never in my life until right this moment, but
years. Obviously, I had to throw Stormtroopers in there. Obviously, I mean, the Jägers, the Austro-Hungarians would have been really interesting. However, that wouldn't work very well with the Star Wars joke.
But the ice planet Hoth was named after Hermann Hoth, the Panzer Army leader from World War II, who, if you watch my World War II channel, just lost his job in November 1943. So a sad moment for the ice planet Hoth. Okay, so tell me about the genesis of the song and what you were trying to go, where you were trying to go with this.
This is a really old track, actually. I started writing this 10 years ago, and I sort of never finished it. I really liked the verse and the drive of the song. I think it was for Heroes, actually, I started writing this one. So it's quite old. 2013 when I wrote it.
Did you never have an album it fit on, or did you just never finished the song, or how did that work?
I basically gave up because the chorus sucked. I remember going through old material because after a while you're working with several songs at the same time when writing an album, and sometimes you need some fresh input. And do I have anything useful in my old pile, you know? Maybe there's a verse or something in an older song I wrote that I could use for a new song. And while going through some of this stuff, I remember Per, who's sitting over there, came up running, and it was the verse for Stormtroopers, I think. Verse and bridge or pre-chorus. And like, oh, that older stuff, I remember that. That's a song. And I'm like, yeah, but the chorus sucks ass.
Ass.
Yes. I could have said something else. That was the least offensive term.
Hey, all right.
Well,
I'll take it.
It turned out then Pat was really onto it, and I'm like, yeah, I like it too, but I got to rewrite the chorus then. So we sort of agreed to, okay, you can remake the chorus and, fuck around with everything else, but don't touch that verse and pre-chorus. Yeah. So that stayed in, and it was actually one of the last songs to be finished for the album. So it was not a last-minute thing really, but I don't know, I just kept postponing it, and having started a song and written a chorus, it's sort of stuck in your mind. It's hard to get out of that and imagine something else in its place.
But had it lyrically always been about Stormtroopers, or was it about something else originally and just changed the lyrics?
Oh, there was just random stupid lyrics.
Can you sing some of them for the crowd?
I do it every night, man.
I mean, the original stupid lyrics. Oh, they're still the original stupid lyrics.
No, usually when I write music and I don't know the topic, which is the case sometimes, I just do random rhymes or random words. I don't even remember them actually.
Are there any other of your more recent tunes from, say, the two World War I?
Yeah, how many other songs haven't been finished yet? That's what I want to know. Like, how many of them has he had on his brain and just be like, nah, that one's not good. I wish all artists would just take all the stuff that they throw away, put it on a CD and put it out there and call it like Trash Fire or something. Like
that are
you might love it.
Not recycled, but you know what I mean, refurbished songs like Stormtroopers.
Oh, good question. I don't remember from the top of my head, but every now and then, yeah, actually, Attack of the Dead Men. Me and Chris started writing that song in 2013 already, but we had a shitty pre-chorus that we couldn't get away with. So we had the verse, the intro, we had everything pretty much, except the solo and the pre-chorus. And it was a hard and technical pre-chorus, and it didn't gel. And we got so frustrated and angry, and just said, it shouldn't be that hard. No. So we just went those few chords, and that's when the dead
that's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's great.
Again.
Hey, something about that song when I play that on piano tomorrow. Speaking of the solo, the first part of the solo, I kept the chords, but I had to change the solo. But once it gets to the bam 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 bam, that sounds brilliant on the piano. Oh, really? That's like the most beautiful part of any part of the album. I've actually fleshed out like large chords, that's like big ass chords to it. You'll like that.
It's so different seeing him in the suit, like boy. I like that. He's so formal.
Well, my friends, that is all from Sabaton History live this time around.
I know, live, but this was fantastic. Hey, can we get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! Okay, and we should definitely do this next year and every year on the Sabaton Cruise.
I hope so.
Hell yeah.
Who's been on the Sabaton Cruise?
No, this was a lot of fun. And if you guys have never been on the Sabaton Cruise, you should definitely come next year because you'll see all kinds of great bands and you'll see Sabaton twice and you'll probably see me doing something else again. Or this. Again,
I got some cool plans for you.
He's got some cool plans for me, which means I'll be dead by the mooring. Okay. See you next time.
This is where I would definitely... We're getting ready to go watch the actual film. Don't worry if we miss this part. This is like a little preview, but we're about to jump into it right now. This was freaking awesome. To go, even if he did this like in the town library, I would show up to listen to the history. It's freaking important. Everybody needs to remember the things that happened. I like that everybody's passing on stories and passing on tales. I don't know. I've never ever been as intrigued with history as I am with doing YouTube because I've learned so many things that I've never even heard of before. Obviously, I've heard of Stormtroopers. I never really thought about it, like at how hardcore they were or what their mission was. And now here we are learning things. Give me 2 seconds. We'll be right back with the actual. We're doing an animated video. Shout out to Martine. Go show Sabaton History all the love in the world. I told you we'd be right back. Sabaton Stormtroopers, the animated music video. Shout out to Martine again. Let's go on this journey together. We know that these Stormtroopers could probably shoot a whole hell of a lot better than the other Stormtroopers that we know. Yo, the rifled barrel. I didn't even notice where we were at first. It would have been so terrifying to be in any kind of trench warfare. No, thank you. can't imagine being that damn cold-hearted, that just damn no care in the world as to someone else's life.
Pioneers would join the fray. Initiative gained, advancement sustained. Lead through their race command as they're advancing through the land, encircling their flanks and ravage the ranks. Expose the reinforcements, destroying the lines. New doctrine in combat aligns. Infantry attacks, exposing the cracks. New combat ideals on the Kaiserschlag fields. Strike at 0 hour with overwhelming firepower. They're fueled by the fear in their enemy's eyes. It's a shock troop infiltration, a fast violent escalation. Out of the trenches, the stormtroopers rise.
Jesus Christ. A mountain of lead. Mountain of brass, I should say. Ain't no lead left. This shit take you to another world right here.
A glimpse of the future, new tactics in war, new doctrine in combat explored. As fast as lightning, there's no time to mourn. A glimpse of the future, and blitzkrieg is born. Strike at 0 hour with overwhelming firepower. They're fueled by the fear in their enemy's eyes. It's a shock troop infiltration, a fast violent escalation. Out of the trenches, the stormtroopers rise. Strike at 0 hour with overwhelming firepower. They're fueled by the fear in their enemy's eyes. It's a shock troop infiltration, a fast violent escalation. Out of the trenches, the stormtroopers rise.
Holy hell. It's seriously some horror movie things. People might just listen to it and be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Rock out to the song, but whoo, the reality behind it, the story behind it is absolutely terrifying for anybody that was there. And I know that it was hyped up and it was over exaggerated and people were even more fearful than just like the facts. The facts alone are fearful, but there was also like those kind of pass through the trenches stories and legends about these people that are going to come that are absolutely ruthless. And that's even more horrifying in and of itself. You don't want to know that you're coming up against some feared enemy is headed your way. No, thank you. Get over, show Sabaton all the love of the world. Go show Sabaton History the love. Smash the like button if you liked it, the dislike button, but it won't believe you. May you never hear the name Stormtroopers the same again. Till the next one, I'm Combustible. You guys be happy, healthy, safe. I love you to the moon and back.